and welcome back to OCD Recovery's YouTube channel. I just want to talk about the importance of being responsible for your own recovery and not trying to put any kind of responsibility onto anyone around you, so your loved ones, friends, families, work colleagues, people you meet in the street. And when I say that, of course, you're not expecting them to be responsible for your recovery, but a lot of the time we hold people who trigger us accountable and feel like the fault lies with them and not on the beliefs that we're holding. So I've seen this a lot, and I've done this myself a lot. You know, if say you park in a space that you shouldn't park in, and someone says to you, whilst you're suffering, someone says to you, you're not supposed to park there, or starts to have a go at you, you will jump down their throat in a way that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, but you will jump down their throat because of a belief that you're holding that they should understand that you're having a bad time, and because of that they shouldn't treat you badly, they should treat you gently because you need it and they don't know what you're going through. But it's really important to remember that they don't know what you're going through, and not only do they not know what you're going through, they don't actually need to know what you're going through. You don't need to be handled with kiddy gloves, even when it feels like it. I know this because I went through a long stage of being handled with kiddy gloves, and it didn't do anything for me. The only thing that actually started to work for me was some tough love, and being told that I needed to take responsibility. And I found that really hard. Obviously, I'd taken responsibility in the sense that I knew it was me that needed to kind of look into OCD. I knew it was me that needed to do the work, but I had also relied heavily on other people to make me feel better about it. And, you know, with compulsions being confessing and reassurance seeking, that was relying on other people to make me feel better, and, you know, asking people to even assist with compulsions. So, you know, messaging family members if my daughter was staying there and saying, you know, is she okay? Or, oh, you're not doing this with her, are you? Or make sure you do this with her, and things like that, to try and have this like level of control. And expecting other people to play along with that was me kind of expecting them to be responsible for how I was feeling. And I see it in the case of younger people, of course, mostly, who are kind of living at home with parents and haven't kind of had that separation or lived on their own or experienced that, or they have lived on their own and experienced that, but because of their OCD they've moved back home maybe, and kind of become heavily dependent on their parents or their caregivers to, you know, help them with the work, or maybe even to do some of the work for them, in the sense of saying they don't understand things, so that a family member, friend or something will assist them in doing it. You know, this isn't as common, but moving home just because you need someone to help you with your OCD is a thing. It's not massively common. You know, normally people that are relying heavily on their parents are people that are still living at home. But I mean, I didn't move home, but I went and stayed with my mum for like a week when I was having that health relapse last year, because I didn't feel like I could cope without her. I didn't feel like I could kind of do everything that I needed to do, as well as like focus on my recovery and look after my own daughter and things, without my mum's help, which wasn't the case at all. Yeah, it felt nice, it felt safe. I didn't feel nice and safe because I was suffering so heavily at the time, but it felt nicer and safer than it did being at home on my own. But it still didn't make this massive difference that I thought it was going to. In fact, if anything, all it did was make me worse, because it was a compulsion. Also partners, so that's quite a common one, is people expecting partners to tiptoe around them, to help them with their compulsions, you know, for instance, in the case of people that have a lot of checking behaviours, so, you know, making sure the house is locked, making sure appliances are turned off and things, getting partners involved in that. And when you know, you've left the house, saying to your partner, oh, can you just check this? Can you just check that? Can you let me know this? Can you let me know that? You know, quite often we put the responsibility of our OCD and our recovery onto other people, and we expect them to fall in line, because if they love us, they would help us when we're suffering. And that's not the case. That's not the case. Obviously, initially, people will do that and they will try and help us because they do love us and they don't want to see us suffer. But once loved ones kind of have an idea of what OCD is and how it plays out, hopefully they realise that giving us reassurance or assisting us in checking behaviours, assisting us in other compulsions, isn't beneficial for our recovery. That's my cat, sorry about that. Is she going to move? There she goes. Once they realise that those behaviours aren't helpful, then not assisting us with those things is obviously what we would prefer that they do. But it's again, it becomes really hard for them, because we could say, you know, we don't want you to do this, we don't want you to assist in checking behaviours, we don't want you to give us any reassurance, we don't want you to keep asking us how we're feeling. But even in saying that, we may ask them to do all of that and they may be happy to listen to that, but then as soon as, you know, as soon as we're triggered and it becomes like quite an extreme response and, you know, we're feeling really, really bad again, once you're then there saying to them, no, forget what I said, I really need you to talk to me about this, I don't think I can cope with it. It's so hard for them to say no. It's so hard for them to say no, because, you know, the desperation that we portray when we're suffering, because that's how we feel desperate. That's definitely how I felt, and that's how I know many other people feel. It is like a feeling of desperation, like I need someone to help me, which in reality we know isn't the case. You don't need someone to help you. You'd like someone to help you, but that is actually going to make it worse in the long run, depending on anyone else to help you. And it is hard for loved ones to say no, which is understandable, because, you know, if someone's begging you to help them, saying no will kind of go against everything you believe, particularly if they're not used to dealing with people with OCD, because reassurance to other people is the norm. You know, if anyone comes to you and says that they're feeling bad, you try to cheer them up, or you try to tell them it's not actually that bad, or whereas obviously with people with OCD that's not helpful. So this is where you really need to take responsibility, in the sense that you need to stop yourself from asking them in the first place. You can't, you know, obviously say to your loved ones, I really need you to not give me reassurance, I really need you to, you know, not help me with checking behaviours. If I ask you to do something and it's kind of relating to my OCD, I need you to just stand firm, say no, I need you to not ask me every day how I am. But then, as well as them helping in that sense, you also really need to make sure that you're not putting it on them, because their natural instinct is going to be to want to help you. And if you're there crying and saying, no, I do need to talk about it now, actually, the chances of them saying no are very slim. So that's where it really, really falls to you to be strict with yourself and say, I know if I ask them this, they are going to help me, because they love me, why wouldn't they? And that is where you need to be strict with yourself and say, I'm not going to put that on them, because they'll give it me and then I will make myself worse in turn. Yeah, so responsibility is hard to take when you're struggling, but massively, massively important. It's you that has OCD, and it's you that wants to recover, and it's you that needs to put in the work in order to do that. And loved ones can help along the way, but they don't need to be as big a part of it as you think that they might do. And actually it's really beneficial sometimes if they're not a part of it, and you do as much of it as you can on your own, because that's the only way you're gonna kind of get through it, because getting other people to do things for you is not going to help your situation. But yeah, feel free to pop any comments below about this video, or mention any other videos that you would like me to do. And if you want to use the OCD recovery coaching services, just pop an email to phil@ocdrecovery.com. Thank you.